What's up guys, this is Professor Pewpew, and in today's video we're gonna do another breakdown video. So a little differently from the last breakdown video we did, this one is gonna be more focused on surviving. So in the mists, there are a lot of these situations where you really just can't win, or I shouldn't say can't win, but you really just can't kill everybody, because sometimes you get outnumbered, you get ratted, you get outgeared, and the chances of you actually killing the other guy or the other guys is pretty slim. So in those situations though, a lot of the times, even if you can't win, you can still get away, and that's what mostly this is going to be about, right? So today's video is going to be about that. When you get into those worst case scenarios, what can you do to not die? A lot of people think that when something like this happens, you're just screwed. You just can't do anything. But I would say at least 90% of the times, that's not actually true. I think a lot of times when these things happen, there are still things that you can do to get out, and we're just gonna take a look at some death clips from this past couple of weeks and talk about what these players could have done to not die. Okay, so for our first clip, we're gonna talk about the one you just watched, like my death right from the start. And a lot of people, as you're watching, you're probably thinking, oh, you're just getting ratted so hard, there's nothing you can do about this. But that's not true, and we're going to talk about all the mistakes I made. So that right there is the first mistake I made. Go back a little bit. So I get a pretty good opening on this fire staff. I do a lot of damage, and I'm thinking about staying to finish him off, right? So I have quota scale on him right now, and he's just nuking his own HP bar on my quota scale. And this is pretty good for me, except this Death Giver showed up. And because he showed up, I panicked and I hit Mistwalker Jacket. And that's the first mistake. When they have Cultist Cowl on them, the damage from Cultist Cowl can pull you out of Mist form for a Mistwalker Jacket. The same thing, by the way, happens with One Hand Curse Ease, right? And both of those abilities can also pull you out of Assassin Jacket. So this is something I knew, and I probably shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have made this mistake. But anyways, screwed up there. Still not over yet. The the Blazing Staff is basically, he's out of the fight right now, right? Like, he's 1 HP. If I touch him, he probably dies. So he's just gonna run away. And all I have to worry about right now is survive this Death Giver. I don't have a whole lot of... I did burn a whole lot of resources right from the start. Don't have Cultist, don't have Mistwalker, and now I don't have Boots either. So I'm really just trying to queue away from this guy. And then the second unfortunate thing happens, which is the rat here shows up, and I eat right on top of him. So this is pretty bad, but it's not over yet. So I'm gonna hold my boots here. When my boots come up, I'm gonna not use it right away, because if the rat dismounts right here, right? So if I boot before he dismounts, then he'll be able to... he's gonna stay mounted and he's gonna keep chasing until my boots run out, and then he'll be able to dismount on top of me. And because I hit him, he's in combat with me, he's not gonna get a timer, right? So he just dismounted up there with no timer, right? So I'm running away here, and this is really where there's no combat anymore. So right now you can see my HP regen a little bit. Right now I can turn this fight around if I eat my soup right away and I just pop into Mist form. Because in Mist form, people can target you. If they can't target you, then they can't put you in combat, which means you'll be able to just regen to full HP with the cabbage soup while you have a Mist form going. But I decided to jump into the mob's range first and then eat my soup. And while I was eating, the mob got a hit off, and even though it did 0 damage because of Mist form, it still counted as a hit. So now I'm in combat with this mob, and I'm not regening anymore. And I have to go until the mob resets to regen a little bit of health, but that's too little too late at this point, and this Death Giver is gonna finish me off, right? So could have been avoided. The Mistwalker Jacket was the first fail, and then the second part was the was the soup. The soup should have been a lot faster. Alright, next up is a clip from Boa. This is actually a submission from Boa, so he wanted me to take a look at this clip and talk about the fight and talk about like what I could have done differently. And he wanted to ask me if I was in his situation, could I have won this fight? So we're going to look at his build and we're going to look at his gameplay. We're going to talk about it. So first, his build, he's playing a Great Fire Staff, kind of like a Warble. Right, so his setup is actually just like a Warble. He's running Assassin Jacket, Force Field, and Refreshing Sprint. The Assassin Jacket is on Infernal Shield right now, which I have no idea why, but we saw on Murder Ledger he's on Assassin Jacket, and really if he had used Ambush, this would be a lot better. You note that Warbows and Baton Bows and Frost, like Kite Frost, they all play Assassin Jacket and they all default use Ambush, right? So I don't know why we would use Infernal Shield as our default skill on this build. And in this matchup, when we go over it, you'll see that if he had Stealth, the Stealth would have done him a lot more good than Infernal Shield. And also he uses Infernal Shield very poorly. So let's go back to the start and talk about everything that was done incorrectly. So at the start here, when the Deathgiver pops boots to run straight at him, when you're playing a long-range skill shot-based weapon, like you'll see this a lot from Frost players actually, and even some light crossbow players. Even when they're not 100% sure if they'll hit you or not, they will be throwing skill shots at you when you're popping boots at max range like this, right? Because what that does is it forces you to zigzag, right? So right now, there's no chance that this Deathgiver is gonna just like pop right on top of you, right? He's not playing a double-bladed staff, right? So if he wants to engage from that distance, he has to hit a Shadow Edge, which with this much open space here, you can dodge that Shadow Edge, right? If he pops boots to run straight at you, what you should do is throw skill shots backwards and force him to zigzag like this. If he doesn't zigzag, then he's going to get hit by at least 2 Qs before he reaches you. And that's still going to be a good thing, you know, because like first of all, when we throw Qs, we can still move back. We can still use boots and move back. But you should be throwing Qs because it forces them to zigzag, which loses value in their boots, right? Because if they want to gap close, they're going to pop boots and run in a straight line. And if you follow my cursor here, like see this line right here is a lot longer than a straight line like this, right? So that's going to take a lot of value out of his boots if he's trying to engage with it. And if he doesn't zigzag and he just runs into your skill shots, then he's going to take a lot of damage, and that's still going to be good for us. But instead, we're just going to try to outrun the Deathgiver as a Fire Staff. And then here is the second, and this is probably the worst misplay of this entire fight, because it's a very basic, very noob mistake kind of mistake. Noob mistake kind of misplay. So when you're on the high ground like this, you can clearly see that there's no mobs in that direction, and there are 2 mobs down here. When you're playing against Deathgivers and Carving Swords and anything that can play off of mobs like that, you want to take care not to choose a path that has mobs in it. Now, of course, in the mist, mobs are kind of everywhere, but in this situation, you can clearly see that there's no mobs over there, right? So run that way, right? Like instead, we run in this direction, right into the 2 mobs. What that's gonna allow the Deathgiver to do is at this point, like if he throws a W at you, even if he misses you, he's gonna hit that mob, and he's still gonna be in melee range, right? Also, if he doesn't throw that W, if he runs past these 2 mobs and Qs off of them, he'll get 2 stacks, right? And then he can Shadow Edge you afterwards, and then get another Q stack off of you just by killing you. And then he will start the fight with 3 stacks on top of you, right? So that would be really, really bad. But like right here, okay. So that's basically what I said was going to happen, right? So he Shadow Edged the mobs, and also you decided to throw E at him while he's in the middle of his Shadow Edge. there is no chance that that E was gonna hit him, because even if he lands, which he actually did land, it still did 0 damage because it's in the middle of Shadow Edge, right? Shadow Edge is an iframe, right? You can see the 0 right there. So that E was a waste. Okay, you get E'd on, and then you pop the Infernal Shield afterwards, so no reflect. And also, why even Infernal Shield anyways? Like, he's on top of you right now, right? So our first thing to do should be to force field him off of us, right? And if you can get him off of us, then you can kite and play the build the way that you're supposed to. And after you popped Infernal Shield, you force fielded him off of you anyways. So Infernal Shield is basically doing nothing for you right now, right? Like if you want to Infernal Shield because he E'd you already, right? I guess that makes sense at least. I don't think that would be the best thing to do, but at least it would make sense. Let's say the Deathgiver already used his E, his damage is gonna hit a fall off now, right? So if you want to turn on Infernal Shield and just brawl with him for a little bit, that would at least make sense. But then you force fielded him off of you right after you turn on Infernal Shield, so Infernal Shield is not reflecting anything right now. It's not doing any kind of damage reduction, right? So you basically just put it on a 40-second cooldown for no reason. And later, when you actually will need Infernal Shield, you're not gonna have it anymore. So yeah, like, this is a very basic thing too. Like, if you can use one skill, like one defensive skill to get them off of you, then don't use two, right? So Force Field would have done the job, and the Infernal Shield was just a waste. And then, okay, this Shadow Edge right here, this Shadow Edge right here, if you're a League player or like a Dota player, you probably recognize this kind of situations where the guy's like, you can tell that he's about to jump over to that mob, right? So if you want to get away from this mob, if you want to get away from him, then you want to get away from this mob right now. And how do you move away from this mob? You don't want to move anywhere towards the upper half of the screen, right? You want to move downwards. You want to probably just go back where you came from, right? Because then you open up a lot more gap from where he will be when he actually travels to the mob. But instead, we just kept moving in the same direction, right? So we didn't take advantage of that misplay on the enemy's part. And he's gonna catch up to us now. Okay, so he's caught up to us now, and now if you still had Infernal Shield, now would be a good time to use it because Force Field's not off cooldown yet, though it's not off cooldown yet. Right, so you're gonna take a little bit of damage right here, right? And the Infernal Shield would make sense to use now, but you don't have it anymore. And actually, what would be even better is if you had stealth. If you had stealth, you would be able to deny his Merc Jacket. Okay, right, so he just Merc Jacketed right there. Force Field is about to come off, right? So if you had Stealth right here, he's gonna proc 1, 2, and then you were actually out of melee range right there, right? So if you just kept walking, he would stop procking on you, right? So if you can Force Field it then, and then hit an Invis, then you'd be able to deny all of his Merc Jacket, because he won't be able to Stalker Hood you out of Invis, right? So that would have been good. And even if you don't have the Invis, like if you still had Infernal Shield going on right here, you could use that now too, but now we don't have it. And also, he's got Merc Jacket on and he's walking towards you, and you decided, like, you were actually out of melee range just from walking, but then you decided to hit spacebar, and now you are in a auto attack animation. Like, what was that auto attack gonna do, right? So you just like slowed yourself down for no reason, and now he's gonna hit you 2 more times, right? So that's another 300 healing, and then a E, right? See, now if you had Infernal Shield going while he E's you, then that would have done something, right? But now we don't have Infernal Shield. And also, we know that his Shadow Edge is gonna be coming up soon, right? So his Shadow Edge should be up right now. And I know this for a fact because last time he shadow edged was on that mob. And watch this. So when he shadow edged, so if you don't have like a good internal clock ticking, then what you could do to track your enemy's cooldowns is you look at one of your own cooldowns and you use that as like a timer for their cooldowns, right? So you know Shadow Edge is 20-second cooldown. With the ill stew going, that's 18 seconds. If this is an enchanted ill stew, maybe 17 seconds, right? And Infernal Shield is 17 seconds off cooldown right now. So you can actually use your own cooldowns, right, to time their cooldowns like that. And like at the end of this trade, we are at a very severe disadvantage now, right? So we really want to make sure we don't get hit by a Shadow Edge. And right now, you know they have a Shadow Edge, so you should know to look for the dodge, right? And then when he Shadow Edge right there, you, out of reflex, you decided to just hit a movement speed buff and then walk in a straight line. Like you're not gonna outrun a Shadow Edge, right? So when you hit the speed buff, why don't you just sidestep? Right, so now you get hit by that Shadow Edge, and now this is over. Like there's no way to come back from this now, right? So even though we got him pretty low at the end, as I think he ended with just a little bit over 1,000 health, right? So if we had actually, oh my god, where am I now? Okay, so we ended the fight, or he ended the fight with 1,300 health, and that's after getting 750 from. That's after getting 750 from the Merc Jacket, right? So to answer your question of what I would have done differently and could I have won, well, I kind of just talked about what I would have done differently. Could I have won? Yeah, I could have won. I don't know if I can kill the guy through his Undead Cape, but even if I can't finish him through the Undead Cape, I'm pretty sure that if he played like that, and I played my best, I could have forced him to run, which when you're out geared and you're playing an off meta build, right? I'd call that a win. Now, what actually contributes the most to people dying in the mist are situations like this. You see this guy right here? He's about to die. Why? Because he just rode his horse right into me. We have off-screen name tags now, and actually if we rewind a little bit, so we have off-screen name tags now, and it's really easy to check people's builds long before you're in skill shot range of them, right? So you see that guy backing off a little bit right there. That's probably what he's doing right now, right? He's probably clicking my name tag right now to check what kind of build I'm running, and I'm doing the same thing to him. You just saw he's running a nature staff, a no mobility weapon, but this guy is gonna live, right? And then this guy running a double mobility weapon is gonna die because he just doesn't have awareness. He just ran right into me, right? And actually at this point he could still survive if he jukes this E right here. So last video I talked about how it's almost impossible to dismount people as Avalonian gloves unless they really screw up. And he is really screwing up right now. Like he can, while I'm midair, if he just rides his horse backwards like this direction, he would have been fine. There would be no way for me to dismount him. But no mechanics. no awareness earlier, now no mechanics. If he even tries to dodge a skill shot, like it would have been easy because he's mounted, he's galloping, right? But he didn't even try to dodge a skill shot. So now he's gonna get dismounted. And as he's dashing away, I attached my helmet, my Dustweaver helmet. So at this point, you should probably just walk until my tether falls off or until I dash in with my helmet, right? But instead, he uses second dash, which means now if I use my helmet, I get to cancel out both of your dashes with just one of my skills, right? So now he can't get away from me, right? If he saved his dash until I dashed in, then he could slow me as he dashed away, and then maybe he can get out. But now it's not looking good for him. Now, this guy right here, dismounted, clearly waiting for cooldowns and just waiting to rat me, right? Like, It's pretty obvious that, when you inspect me and you see 7-3 and then you see this thing going on, he's trying to rat me, right? So maybe just hang out right here and wait for this guy to help you. But instead he runs away from the guy. And now okay, so he turns on his hunter hood and stalker jacket at the same time, which means I can just Mistwalker them both. And right now I'm in Mistwalker, so he can't do damage to me. He's not reflecting anything with the helmet either. So there's no point for him to just hover around like this, right? Now would be a good time for you to just walk back to the guy that's clearly trying to help you. But he doesn't do that, and then the other guy mounts up to try to chase and dismounts again. And this whole time this guy had no 15-second timer on him, by the way. Like, I don't know how the hell did he get that, but not gonna question it. All right, so he's trying to, right, so clearly he's trying to help this guy. He can still just loop back around this tree, right? I'm a melee weapon. I'm not going to be able to chase him if he just runs circles around this tree and while this guy is shooting me, right? But he just keeps running away from his help. And now he's going to die. And as soon as, well, at this point, like, he's going to die now. So the ballcaster is going to back off. And and he's gone, right? So he basically just did everything he can to ensure that he dies. The last clip of the day is a clip from Danny C. And as per usual, Danny C is playing a 3 off-meta build, and he is playing against SBI. Yeah, you heard me right. He's playing against SBI. You see what just happened there? Like, how are you supposed to survive this? Of all the situations that I've shown you so far, some of them look desperate, some of them look unsurvivable, but this actually is unsurvivable. Like, SBI, hello, can we fix this, please? Like, how on earth are you supposed to be able to tell that this guy has recently been in combat when he is full and there's nobody else around? And yeah, sure, there's a corpse right there, but like, how are you supposed to know that he killed that guy and he's not just looking at some random guy's loot, right? How do you know this guy's been in combat recently? You can't. There's no indicator for it. Can we just have a visual indicator on this guy right here to indicate that he's been in combat? Or maybe like an indicator on you? So to indicate that if you dismount right now, you get 15 seconds on you? Can we just do that, please?